Rain pounded against the windows of the small two-bedroom house that Tom and Elena had called home for the past 3 years. The weather outside matched the storm brewing inside, where raised voices had finally fallen silent. Only the ticking of the kitchen clock and Elena's quiet sobs filled the room now. Tom stood by the door, his overnight bag packed hastily with whatever clothes he could grab. His face was a mix of exhaustion and anger, with dark circles under his eyes from months of sleepless nights. "I can't do this anymore," he said, his voice low but firm. 3 years of doctors, 3 years of tests, 3 years of watching you cry every month. He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit Elena used to find endearing. "The money's gone, Elena. Our savings, my extra shifts, even the loan from your parents, all gone on treatments that don't work." Elena sat on the edge of their worn couch, hands protectively placed over her stomach in a gesture that had become automatic. She didn't know yet what those hands were guarding. "Please," she whispered, "just one more try. Dr. Patel said the last treatment could still." "Dr. Patel just wants our money," Tom shouted, then immediately lowered his voice. "I'm sorry, but we need to face facts. Some people aren't meant to have children." Those words cut through Elena like a knife. After 38 negative pregnancy tests, 6 failed IVF attempts, and countless hormone injections that had turned her body and emotions into a battleground, hearing Tom say it out loud broke something inside her. "You promised," she said, "for better or worse, remember? This is the worst part, Tom." He looked away, unable to meet her eyes. "I thought I could handle it. I thought I was stronger." His voice cracked slightly. "But watching you destroy yourself for something that might never happen, I'm not strong enough for that." Elena stood up slowly, feeling oddly lightheaded. Was it stress or something else? She'd been feeling strange for days, but had blamed it on the latest round of medications. "So you're just leaving? After everything we've been through?" Tom picked up his bag, his wedding ring catching the light as he gripped the handle. "I filed the papers yesterday. My lawyer will contact you." He paused, looking around the house filled with photos of happier times. "You can keep the house. I'll pay off my half of the mortgage. It's the least I can do." "How generous," Elena said bitterly. 3 years of marriage tossed away, but at least I get to keep the house." The truth was, Tom had been pulling away for months. The fertility clinic waiting rooms, the calendar marked with treatment dates, the nursery they had painted yellow 2 years ago that still stood empty, it had all become too much. Their friends had children now. Family gatherings became torture sessions of well-meaning questions about when they would have a baby. What hurt most was that Elena knew Tom still loved her. She could see it in his eyes even now. But that love wasn't enough anymore. "I hope you find what you're looking for," Elena said quietly. "I hope someday you have the family you want, with someone who doesn't have a broken body." Tom shook his head. "Your body isn't broken. We're just broken together." He reached for the doorknob. "I'm sorry, Elena." The door closed behind him with a soft click that somehow felt louder than if he had slammed it. Through the window, Elena watched him climb into his car, sit motionless for nearly a minute, then drive away into the rain. She sank back onto the couch, one hand still on her stomach as a wave of nausea passed through her. It was the 3rd time today. She had planned to mention it to Dr. Patel at their follow-up appointment next week, though now it seemed pointless. What Elena didn't know as she curled up on the couch, alone in the home they had built together, was that the last treatment had worked after all. Inside her, not 1 but 4 tiny hearts had just begun to beat, a miracle that would change everything. 2 weeks had passed since Tom walked out the door. Elena dragged herself out of bed, fighting another wave of morning sickness that she still believed was just stress and heartbreak. Her appointment with Dr. Patel was in an hour, and every part of her wanted to cancel it. What was the point now? She stared at her phone, thumb hovering over the clinic's number. One call, and she could crawl back into bed, pull the covers over her head, and pretend the last 3 years of trying for a baby had never happened. But something stopped her. "Just go and end it properly," Elena told herself, splashing cold water on her face. "Cancel the treatments, get your medical records, and move on." The waiting room at the fertility clinic felt different today. Usually, she and Tom would sit together, holding hands, stealing glances at other couples, and wondering if they were going through the same struggles. Today, Elena sat alone, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Mrs. Reyes? The nurse called her name with the same warm smile as always. Elena almost corrected her. Soon she wouldn't be Mrs. Reyes anymore, but she just nodded and followed the woman to the examination room. Dr. Patel entered a few minutes later, her kind eyes taking in Elena's appearance. "Elena, I'm sorry to see you alone today. Is everything all right?" Elena took a deep breath. "Tom's gone. We're getting divorced. I just came to formally end our treatment plan and get my records." The doctor sat down, a clipboard lowered. "I'm very sorry to hear that. This journey is difficult for many couples." She hesitated. "Before we discuss ending treatment, I'd like to run a quick blood test. You look a bit pale, and I want to check your hormone levels." 30 minutes later, Elena sat stunned as Dr. Patel returned with a strange expression on her face. "Elena, your blood test shows you're pregnant." The room seemed to spin. "That's impossible. The last treatment failed. All the home tests were negative." "Home tests aren't always reliable, especially with the medications you've been taking." Dr. Patel's voice seemed to come from far away. "Let's do an ultrasound to confirm." Elena lay back on the examination table, mind racing. Pregnant? Now? After Tom had left? After all this time? The cool gel on her stomach barely registered as she tried to process what was happening. Dr. Patel moved the ultrasound wand slowly, her professional demeanor suddenly shifting. She leaned closer to the screen, then adjusted some settings. "Is something wrong?" Elena asked, heart pounding. "No, not wrong." Dr. Patel turned the screen toward Elena. "But I need you to prepare yourself. Do you see this?" She pointed to a small fluttering on the screen. "That's a heartbeat." Elena's own heart seemed to stop. After years of disappointment, there it was, proof of life. And here, Dr. Patel moved the wand slightly, is another heartbeat. Another. Elena whispered, "Twins?" Dr. Patel continued moving the wand. "And here's a third." She paused, concentrating. "And, yes, here's a fourth." The room went completely silent. Elena stared at the screen, unable to process what she was seeing. 4 babies. Her voice was barely audible. That's not possible. With the fertility medications you were taking, multiple pregnancies can happen. Quadruplets are rare, but not unheard of." Dr. Patel's voice was gentle but serious. "Elena, you're carrying 4 babies." The tears came suddenly, years of hope and heartbreak pouring out all at once. Through her blurred vision, Elena watched the 4 tiny flickering heartbeats on the screen, 4 little lives that had begun against all odds. "Your last treatment didn't fail, Elena. It worked 4 times over." In that moment, fear and joy battled within her. She was alone, her marriage was ending, and now she was carrying not 1 but 4 babies. How would she manage? Where would she find the strength? But as she stared at those 4 flickering lights on the screen, something hardened inside Elena. These were her children, the family she had dreamed of for so long. Tom had walked away, but she wouldn't. "They're mine," she whispered, placing her hand on her still flat stomach. "All 4 of them are mine." Dr. Patel squeezed her shoulder. "This will be a high-risk pregnancy. You're going to need support." Elena nodded, not taking her eyes off the screen. "I'll find it. Somehow, I'll find it." As she lay there watching her impossible miracles, Elena made a silent promise to the 4 tiny hearts beating inside her. "Your father may have left us, but I never will." Elena's belly grew faster than anyone expected. By her 4th month, she looked like most women did at 7 months with a single baby. Her body ached constantly, her back strained under the weight of 4 growing babies. "You need to take it easy," her sister Vera insisted, unpacking her suitcase in Elena's guest room. She had moved in last week, taking a leave of absence from her job 3 states away. "That's why I'm here. You can't do this alone." Elena sank into the couch, grateful but embarrassed. "I didn't want to burden anyone." "Family isn't a burden," Vera said firmly, placing a protective hand on Elena's rounded stomach. "These little ones are my nieces and nephews. Where else would I be?" The divorce papers had arrived yesterday. Tom had signed his part already, his signature a painful reminder of how quickly he'd moved on. He'd included a short note. "I'm sorry things didn't work out. I wish you the best asterisk, no mention of checking how she was doing, no knowledge of the 4 lives growing inside her. Elena hadn't told him. Pride, hurt, and anger had kept her silent. His cousin had been removed from her social media before she announced her pregnancy, and their mutual friends had chosen sides, most staying with Tom. The few who knew about the babies had respected her wish for privacy. As far as Tom knew, he had successfully escaped the baby dream that had consumed their marriage. Dr. Patel had been clear about the risks. Quadruplet pregnancies are extremely high risk. You'll need to start bed rest by the 5th month, possibly earlier. Those words echoed in Elena's mind as she looked around her house. The mortgage payment was due next week. Her medical bills were piling up, even with insurance. Her job as a graphic designer allowed her to work from home, but she wasn't sure how long she could keep up with projects once bed rest began. I got a call from Mrs. Chen next door, Vera said, interrupting Elena's worries. She's organizing some kind of meal train with the neighbors, and Mom and Dad called this morning. They want to help with the medical bills. Tears sprang to Elena's eyes. I didn't ask them to do that. You didn't have to, Vera sat beside her. When they heard about the quads, Dad nearly fell out of his chair. 4 grandchildren at once. They're over the moon. A sharp kick from inside made Elena wince and laugh at the same time. This one's going to be a soccer player, always kicking on the right side. Vera's eyes widened. You can tell them apart already. Elena nodded, pointing to different areas of her stomach. This one's the kicker. This one hiccups every night around 8. This one barely moves except in the morning. And this little one, she touched the upper left side of her belly. This one reacts whenever I play music, always dancing. Her phone buzzed with a text from her boss. Asterisk, take all the time you need. Your job will be waiting when you're ready. Asterisk, another unexpected blessing. The doorbell rang and Vera went to answer it. She returned with their childhood friend Lily, arms full of baby supplies. I cleared out the baby section at the store, Lily announced. 4 of everything. Though I'm thinking you might want to color code these little ones. Imagine mixing them up. For the first time in months, Elena laughed until her sides hurt. That night, as Elena lay in bed trying to find a comfortable position, her phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. It was Tom's best friend Ryan. Asterisk, he's dating someone new. Thought you should know. I'm sorry, Elena asterisk. The pain was sharp but briefer than she expected. While Tom started fresh with someone else, Elena's body worked overtime growing 4 hearts that shared his DNA. Her hands cradled her stomach, feeling the gentle movements within. We don't need him, she whispered to her babies. Look at all the love you have already. But late that night, as everyone slept, Elena allowed herself a moment of fear. Her doctor's warnings about possible complications, the financial strain ahead, the physical toll on her body, it all crashed down at once. Yet with each worry came a tiny kick or flutter from inside, as if her babies were reminding her they were in this together. Tomorrow, she would begin strict bed rest, fighting to keep her children safe for as many weeks as possible. The nursery, once painted yellow for a single baby, now held 4 small cribs donated by the local parents' group. Life hadn't turned out as planned, but somehow it had given her more than she ever dreamed. The hospital room buzzed with activity as nurses moved quickly around Elena. She had made it to 32 weeks, a victory for a quadruplet pregnancy, Dr. Patel had assured her. But this morning, her blood pressure had spiked dangerously high. There was no more waiting. You're doing great, Vera squeezed her hand. Mom and Dad are in the waiting room. Lily's bringing your hospital bag. Elena nodded, trying to stay calm as monitors beeped around her. 8 weeks of bed rest had been torture, physically painful, emotionally draining, and frightening when complications arose. But she had made it this far. Her babies had grown enough to have a fighting chance. We're prepping for an emergency C-section, a nurse explained, hooking up another IV. Dr. Patel was on her way, and we have 4 NICU teams standing by, 1 for each baby. Elena's heart raced. 4 teams. 4 tiny lives about to enter the world. Where was Tom? The thought snuck in before she could stop it. He should be here, pacing nervously, holding her hand. Instead, she had everyone but the one person who had helped create these babies. I'm scared, she admitted to Vera, her voice small. I know, Vera kissed her forehead, but you're the strongest person I know. These babies hit the jackpot getting you as their mom. Dr. Patel arrived, already in surgical scrubs. Ready to meet your 4 little miracles, Elena? Within minutes, Elena was wheeled into the operating room, bright lights overhead, the surgical team moving with practiced precision. The anesthesiologist explained what would happen, but the words blurred together. This wasn't how Elena had imagined bringing her children into the world, alone, afraid, with a team of strangers surrounding her. But she wasn't really alone, she realized. The room was full of people dedicated to saving her babies. Beyond these walls waited friends and family who had supported her through the hardest months of her life. We're starting now, Elena. Dr. Patel's voice came from behind the surgical drape. You'll feel some pressure but no pain. The tugging sensation was strange but not painful. Elena fixed her eyes on the ceiling, counting seconds, waiting to hear that first precious cry. Baby A is out. Dr. Patel announced. It's a girl. A thin, angry wail filled the room, the most beautiful sound Elena had ever heard. Tears streamed down her face. Baby B is a boy. Came the next announcement, followed by another cry. Baby C is also a boy. And baby D is a girl. 4 cries, 4 tiny humans who had grown inside her now in the world. Elena caught only glimpses as each was whisked away to waiting incubators, tiny red faces, impossibly small hands, wisps of dark hair. All 4 appeared to be breathing well, a pediatrician reported. Good color, good initial responses. They'll need NICU time, but they look strong, Elena. 2 hours later, still groggy from surgery, Elena was wheeled into the NICU. 4 incubators formed a semicircle, each containing a tiny bundle wrapped in hospital blankets. 2 pink caps, 2 blue caps. They're so small, Elena whispered, reaching a hand through the opening of the first incubator to touch her daughter's perfect fingers. Each baby weighed between 3 and 4 pounds, small but mighty, the nurses said. Have you thought of names? A nurse asked, updating charts. Elena nodded. She had chosen names months ago, writing them in the journal she kept throughout her pregnancy. Sophia, she said, touching the first baby girl. Nathan for the first boy. Oliver for the second boy. And Lily for her second daughter, named after her faithful friend. Beautiful names, the nurse smiled. And the last name. Elena hesitated only briefly. Reyes, my last name. Her phone buzzed with messages and photos from the waiting room, where her parents, Vera, and friends celebrated the 4 new arrivals. Someone had brought champagne, another had 4 tiny stuffed animals. Your babies are famous already, a nurse commented, showing Elena her phone. Your sister posted the first photo. 30 likes in 2 minutes. Elena hadn't considered how quickly news would spread through social media. Somewhere across town was a man who had no idea he had just become a father of 4. The thought was both satisfying and sad. But as she looked at her 4 perfect miracles, Elena couldn't focus on the past. These tiny fighters needed her completely. They would go home to the house Tom had left, but it wouldn't be empty anymore. It would be overflowing with love, challenges, and the family Elena had always dreamed of, just not in the way she had expected. 18 months had passed in a blur of diapers, bottles, first smiles, and first steps. Elena checked the straps on 4 identical strollers, each carrying a curly-haired toddler dressed in bright colors to tell them apart. Sophia in purple, Nathan in blue, Oliver in green, and Lily in yellow. Today was a rare treat, a trip to the park with Vera to let the quads experience the outdoors. Ready for adventure? Elena asked, making silly faces at her children. 4 pairs of eyes, all the same deep brown like their father's, stared back at her with excited giggles. They were walking now, all 4 of them, but the park was too far for their wobbly legs. I've got the diaper bag and snacks, Vera announced, joining them with a massive bag slung over her shoulder. Though she had her own apartment now, she remained a constant in the children's lives, stepping in whenever Elena needed a break. The spring day was perfect, warm sunshine, a gentle breeze, and the neighborhood park less crowded than usual. Elena pushed the double stroller with the boys while Vera handled the girls. People stared, as they always did, some stopping to count the matching children with wide eyes. Are they all yours? A woman asked, the question Elena heard at least once every outing. Yes, they're quadruplets, she answered with the practiced smile she developed. 18 months old now. You're amazing, the woman said, shaking her head in wonder before continuing her jog. Amazing wasn't the word Elena would have chosen. Exhausted, maybe. Overwhelmed, definitely. But also happier than she'd ever imagined possible. The quads filled her days with chaos and joy in equal measure. Elena settled on a bench while Vera helped the toddlers explore the small playground designed for young children. Sophia, always the leader, headed straight for the tiny slide. Nathan watched his sister carefully before following. Oliver was more interested in the texture of the sand, while Lily stood back, observing everything with curious eyes. They have such different personalities, Elena remarked, taking photos with her phone. Hard to believe they shared the same space for 8 months. Vera laughed. They were probably arguing for position in there. No wonder you couldn't sleep. Elena was about to respond when something caught her eye. A man stood at the edge of the playground, staring at her children with an expression she couldn't quite read. He wore a business suit, slightly rumpled, and his face was partly hidden behind sunglasses. But she would know that stance anywhere. The way he shifted his weight from one foot to the other when nervous. The habit of running his fingers through his hair. Tom. Her heart seemed to stop. Instinctively, she stood up, positioning herself between him and the children. How had he found out? Why was he here? Elena. Vera had noticed her sudden tension. What's wrong? It's Tom, Elena whispered, not taking her eyes off him. Over there, watching us. Vera's head whipped around. You want me to get rid of him? Elena shook her head slowly. No. I need to know why he's here. As if sensing her awareness, Tom removed his sunglasses. Even from this distance, Elena could see the shock in his eyes as he looked from one child to another, counting, processing. His face had grown pale, his body rigid with disbelief. 4 children, all the same age. All with his eyes, his dark curls, his dimples when they smiled. He took a hesitant step forward, then stopped, seemingly unsure if he was welcome. In that moment, Elena saw not the man who had walked out on their marriage, but a person confronting an overwhelming truth. He had 4 children he knew nothing about. 4 lives that had been growing, changing, developing while he built his new life elsewhere. Oliver spotted Tom first. Something in the toddler's DNA must have recognized something familiar. He stopped playing with the sand and stared, his little face curious. Then he smiled, that open, trusting smile that children give so freely. Tom's face crumpled at the sight. He seemed frozen in place, torn between approaching and fleeing. Finally, his eyes met Elena's across the playground. 1,000 unspoken words passed between them in that single look. Mama, Lily called, breaking the moment as she toppled over, arms raised to be picked up. As Elena lifted her daughter, she saw Tom take a deep breath and begin walking toward them. The conversation she had both dreaded and rehearsed in her mind for 18 months was about to happen, right here in the sunny park where her children were having their first normal family day out. Life had a strange sense of timing. Tom stopped a few feet away from the bench where Elena sat with Lily on her lap. His eyes moved from one child to another, taking in their faces, their movements, their existence. Vera hovered protectively near the boys, her expression making it clear she was ready to intervene if needed. There, Tom's voice cracked. He cleared his throat and tried again. They're all ours. Elena nodded, her grip tightening slightly around Lily, who was watching Tom with curious eyes. Yes, all 4. 4, he repeated, the word barely audible. How, when did you find out? 2 weeks after you left. Elena's voice was steadier than she felt. The last treatment worked. It really worked. Tom sank onto the far end of the bench, legs seemingly unable to hold him anymore. His hands were shaking. Why didn't you tell me? The question hung in the air. Nathan had noticed the newcomer now and was toddling over to investigate, with Oliver following close behind. Sophia remained with Vera, clinging to her aunt's leg, watching cautiously. You left me, Elena said simply. You said you couldn't handle it anymore. Would knowing I was pregnant have changed anything? Or would it have just been one more thing you couldn't handle? The words were harsh but not angry. 18 months had dulled the edge of Elena's pain, leaving mostly facts in its place. Tom watched as Nathan reached them, placing a small hand on his knee to steady himself. The touch seemed to startle Tom, who looked down at his son with wonder and fear. "Hi there," he said softly. Nathan grinned in response, revealing tiny white teeth. "That's Nathan," Elena said, "the quiet observer. And that's Oliver coming now. He's our explorer." She pointed to where Vera stood. "Sofia over there is our leader. And this," she bounced Lily on her knee, "is Lily, our dreamer." "They have names," Tom whispered, then winced at his own words. "Of course they have names. I didn't know." "How did you find out about them?" Elena asked, the question that had been burning since she spotted him. Tom's eyes didn't leave Nathan, who was now trying to climb onto the bench between them. "Pete's cousin saw your sister's post 6 months ago. He showed Pete, and Pete eventually told me." He paused. "I didn't believe it at first. 4 babies? It seemed impossible." "So you've known for 6 months?" Elena's voice sharpened. "And today is the first time you decided to see them." Tom finally looked at her, his face a mask of shame. "I was scared. Terrified, actually. What would I say? How could I explain walking away from their mother? From them?" He swallowed hard. "And honestly, I didn't think you'd want me anywhere near them. I wouldn't blame you." Oliver had reached them now too, and was studying Tom's watch with fascination. Without thinking, Tom lifted him onto the bench beside his brother. The little boy seemed perfectly content to sit next to this stranger, poking at the shiny metal on his wrist. "They look like you," Elena said softly. "All 4 of them. Same eyes, same dimple when they smile." "They have your nose," Tom replied, his voice thick with emotion. "And your curls." For a moment, they sat in silence, 2 parents watching their children, one who had been there every day, one who was seeing them for the first time. "Can I?" Tom hesitated. "Would you let me meet them properly?" "All of them?" "I know I have no right to ask. I know what I did was unforgivable. But his voice broke. "They're my children too." Elena felt years of anger and hurt swirling inside her. This man had left when she needed him most. He had missed the terrifying pregnancy, the premature birth, the NICU stays, the first smiles, the first words, the first steps. He had missed midnight feedings and fever scares and the exhaustion that came with raising 4 babies alone. But looking at the way Nathan and Oliver seemed drawn to him, Elena felt something else too, the weight of a decision that would affect 5 lives forever. "I can't just let you walk into their lives as if nothing happened," she said finally. "They deserve better than that. I deserve better than that." Tom nodded, accepting her words like a physical blow. "I understand. I'll do whatever you think is best for them. If you want me to disappear again." "That's not what I said." Elena interrupted. "I said you can't just walk in, not without proving yourself first." 1 year later, Elena stood in her backyard, pinning colorful streamers to trees. 4 small tables were set up on the lawn, each with its own cake, purple for Sofia, blue for Nathan, green for Oliver, and yellow for Lily. Turning 3 was a big deal, especially for children who had beaten the odds from the start. "Need any help with those?" Tom's voice came from the back gate. He carried 4 identical gift bags and a larger box under his arm. "You're early," Elena said, but smiled as she climbed down from her stepladder. "They're still napping, but they should be up soon." It had been a long, complicated year since that day at the park. After their first conversation, Elena had set clear boundaries. Tom could visit once a week, supervised for 1 hour. He had to take parenting classes. He needed to contribute financially. Most importantly, he had to be reliable, no cancelled visits, no empty promises. To her surprise, he had done everything she asked without complaint. The parenting classes, the child support payments, the consistent visits that gradually increased in length and frequency. He had even relocated to be closer, taking a job with a lower salary but flexible hours. "I got them each something special," Tom explained, setting down the gifts. "And the big box is that outdoor water table you mentioned, for all of them to share." Elena nodded appreciatively. "They'll love that. They're obsessed with water play these days." A pause. "Thank you." Things weren't perfect between them. There were still moments of tension, old hurts that surfaced unexpectedly. But watching Tom with the children, reading them stories, teaching them games, carefully noting each of their preferences and quirks, had softened something in Elena. He wasn't the same man who had walked out 2 years ago. "Daddy." The chorus of excited voices made them both turn. All 4 toddlers were at the back door with Vera, freshly awakened from their naps, and spotted Tom immediately. Elena watched as Tom knelt down, opening his arms wide to receive the stampede of tiny bodies that rushed toward him. These moments still amazed her, how quickly children forgave, how easily they loved. "Happy birthday, Munchkins." Tom gathered all 4 into a group hug, though they squirmed and giggled too much to stay in place long. "You're getting so big." Within minutes, the yard was chaos, wrapping paper torn apart, cake smeared on little faces, the new water table causing shrieks of delight. Friends and family arrived, filling the space with laughter and conversation. Elena's parents chatted comfortably with Tom, a scene she would have found impossible to imagine a year ago. As the party wound down, Elena found herself standing beside Tom, both of them watching the grandparents help the exhausted children try out new toys. "You did all this," Tom said quietly. "Built this wonderful family. Gave them everything they needed." Elena shook her head. "I had help. My parents, Vera, friends. But not me," Tom finished. "Not when it mattered most." The old pain flickered across his face, a regret he carried every day. "I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for that." "They don't remember a time without you now," Elena said gently. "That's what matters to them." Tom hesitated, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "I wanted to give you this today. It's not much, but..." He handed it to her awkwardly. Inside was a card. The front simply said, "Thank you." Inside, Tom had written, "Asterisk for giving our children the strength and love I couldn't provide. For allowing me back into their lives when you had every reason not to. I will never stop being grateful, asterisk." Beneath the message was a certificate showing a college fund he had started for each child. "I can't change the past," Tom said, watching her read. "But I promise to be here for their future." Elena felt tears sting her eyes. This journey wasn't what she had imagined when she dreamed of having a family. There was no perfect marriage, no traditional household. Instead, there were 4 beautiful children with 2 parents who had found a different way to love them. "Mama, Daddy, look," Sophia called from across the yard, where all 4 children were now piled into a new wagon from their grandparents, waiting expectantly for someone to pull them. Tom looked at Elena, a silent question in his eyes. She nodded, and together they walked across the yard toward their children. Not as husband and wife, but as partners in the most important job they would ever have. As they reached the wagon and each took a handle, Oliver looked up at them with chocolate-smeared cheeks and asked, "Are we happy family now?" In that moment, looking at the 4 little faces that had changed everything, Elena knew the answer was yes, just not in the way she had once planned.